Guest pulling up. Go ahead, Angela.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead. You after your potty mouth, go ahead and do the intro.
I did it.
Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania is here. Come here,
Wherever you want to sit.
My guy, what's the word, brother? How are you, man? What's happening? What's
Governor
happening?
Shapiro just.
Man, Governor Josh Shapiro is here. I loved your theme of freedom last night.
Oh,
he can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can hear me now. I loved your theme of freedom last night. And, you know, one question that I've been asking everyone in light of the Supreme Court's recent ruling is the fact we know so many Republican officials will refuse to certify the results of the election. Do you believe our democracy is healthy enough to have a free and fair election come November?
I do, because, look, last time we had a free and fair, safe and secure election in Pennsylvania and elsewhere, and our courts held. The judges, when it was up to them, did do the right thing. But make no mistake, there are serious threats out there. It's one of the reasons why 9 months ago, as the governor of Pennsylvania, which I think everybody agrees is kind of the ultimate swing state here, we put together an election protection task force led by my Secretary of the Commonwealth who oversees elections, importantly, a Republican, because I think the administration of elections is nonpartisan. Obviously, partisan exercise decide who you want to be for, but we want everyone in Pennsylvania to know that their ballot can be cast, their ballot will be counted, and I don't care what Donald Trump does to try and throw out a vote, we'll be ready to go to court to protect it.
Absolutely.
Can I say, I'm going to ask you.
Angela, you can say whatever you want. Anything you want.
It is a night of celebration, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to take you into our text messages. Don't be mad, Lenard. We were both surprised that you were not selected as the VP.
I was disappointed.
I was going to say that next.
Okay.
And I want to know what it takes emotionally to get past that when you know you're qualified, when you know your friends are qualified too, when you're standing shoulder to shoulder with them and you know you got to carry on in the fight.
Yeah.
How do you move past something like that? I mean, we are a little biased as we got to sit with you. I remember interviewing you. I was like, he has it. There's like an it factor. Andrew has the it factor running for governor of Florida. Like
that was a hell of a race, Andrew.
And he's not done if I got anything to do with it. But yes, I just want to know what it takes for you to move past that.
Well, first off, I hope you saw me that Tuesday night in Philly when Kamala Harris and Tim Walz came out.
Yeah.
I think I made clear
full throttle.
that I'm all in for them.
Yep.
And I hope I also made clear that I'm more than at peace with this. And let me explain. I said during that process, which I was really humbled and honored to be a part of, that this was, at the end of the day, a deeply personal decision for the vice president. I'll tell you what, it was also a deeply personal decision for me. And you got to make sure that you're in the right situation, ultimately, most importantly, for her. She's the boss. But also making sure that you're in the best position where you can serve, where you can chart your course, where you can have an impact on people every day. And at the end of the day, I think she made an outstanding pick in Tim Walz.
Solid pick,
He's
absolutely.
going to serve her well in that role. And I look forward to continue to do everything I can as governor of Pennsylvania.
It's a compliment to you, though, because people were saying, like, he's not a number two, he's a number one. So he
But speaking of number ones, because that was my follow-up, there's been a lot of messy talk about when Kamala Harris and Tim Walz win in 2024, that what would prevent you from challenging them in 2028? Would you say, like, I would never do that?
Listen, no, we're not going to play that game. They're going to win. I'm going to do everything I can to help, and I'm going to do everything I can to help make sure they win again. So
I love that.
Period.
But putting the noise arrest, I think, is mission critical, so I appreciate you doing that.
Governor,
what was
I'm
that,
curious.
Tiff?
Well, because I was trying to think when was the last time that we had a brokered convention at the DNC, so I was wondering where that speculation would come from. But, Governor, the question I want to ask, I know that you enjoy being governor of Pennsylvania
3 weeks
and are
ago.
dedicated.
Love it.
I'm sorry?
I said 3 weeks ago.
What was 3 weeks ago?
Joe Biden stepped down.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Governor, I know you enjoy being governor. You've been clear that you enjoy being governor of Pennsylvania. However, there is speculation about what role you might take when Kamala Harris and Tim Walz win the White House. Should you join her administration, I'm curious what your advice to her would be when it comes to what we're seeing happening in Israel and Gaza.
Let me be clear. I love being governor of Pennsylvania. I'm going to continue to be governor of Pennsylvania. Period. Hard stop.
Full stop.
End of sentence. Full stop. If you're asking me about Israel, I'm happy to give you my thoughts on that. But ultimately, that policy is going to be set by the Harris-Walz administration with whoever she has, hopefully negotiating a peace in the Middle East. Look, I'll just share with my views, because I think a lot of this, people like to project onto other people what they think. Here's what I know. On October 7th, a terrorist group Hamas, by the way, designated terrorist group by the United States of America, stormed into a sovereign nation, killed people at a music festival, killed people in their homes, ripped away babies and families, over 200 of them, and took them hostage back in Gaza. There were Americans taken hostage as well. The world should be unified in their outrage about that. And my heart breaks for what happened in Israel. Over the ensuing months, my heart also breaks for the death and destruction that we are seeing in Gaza every single day. Those babies in Gaza, they don't deserve to die. But yet we are here in this situation of warfare that is claiming far too many innocent lives. What needs to happen is a return of the hostages, and then what needs to happen is an end of the violence. And then what my hope has been for years, long before October 7th, is that we can renew meaningful conversations to have a two-state solution. Palestinians and Israelis living peacefully side by side. Now listen, all of what I just said, there's some nuance in that. I get that. Here's where there can be absolutely no nuance. When it comes to all of us joining forces and condemning anti-Semitism, condemning Islamophobia, condemning all forms of hatred and bigotry. That should unify us as Americans, to be against that hatred and bigotry. And that is where I stand. I'm someone who's hopeful for peace. And the quickest way we can get toward a lasting conversation on peace is by being tolerant of one another, getting these hostages home, and ending the violence.
Definitely want to get the hostages home, for sure. I think everyone agrees on that. But given the over 40,000, many children included in that number, of civilian lives that have been casualties of this war.
Which I acknowledge is painful, of course.
I'm curious what you might say to the people outside protesting who want to support this administration, and they want their humanity seen. What would your message to them be tonight?
I would say you not only have a First Amendment right to protest, one that, as the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, as the Governor of Pennsylvania, I stand up and protect every day. I'd say that, I think I understand your pain. I think I understand your pain. It's hard to fully understand someone's pain until you've walked in their shoes. But I have met with so many Muslim Americans, Palestinian Christians, people in Pennsylvania who have family in Gaza. I've heard their pain. I've absorbed that, and my heart breaks for them, as it breaks for the Israelis that lost loved ones on October 7th and continue to have loved ones held captive by this terrorist organization. This is horrible on every level. And if there's people outside peacefully protesting to make sure that powerful people inside this building here, that's their right to do, and it's good that they're out there doing that. As I've always said, you got a right to protest. You got to follow the rules, whatever the rules are that the mayor of Chicago or whoever set up, and it's got to be peaceful, and then you can make sure your voice is heard.
That's right. I wanted to ask you about Pennsylvania, Governor. Donald Trump's support among white working class voters without a college degree has shrunk significantly, not just in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin as well. That group typically favors Republicans, but they're now starting to back the vice president. Why do you think that is?
I'll just look. Obviously, you cite all the polling, and basically we got kind of a tied race right now. I'll tell you what, Charlamagne, anecdotally, when I'm out in these rural areas, I go there a lot. Folks kind of sidle up to me and they go, "Hey, what do you really think of her? What's her deal?" And what I'm trying to express to you is there's like a curiosity. Well, what's she really like? What's she gonna be like? You know her. I take that as a really positive and hopeful sign that they're kind of open to considering her candidacy. And that's a really, really important thing. Andrew, you know that feel from when you're running and you kind of got somebody who maybe you think wouldn't take a look at you, but they are. That's when you know you're kind of onto something. And that's what I'm feeling out in the community.
And I actually wanted to ask your advice, and I'm sure you're giving it to the campaign. As a governor, I completely understand your hesitance on wanting to go anywhere, because it's such a powerful and important and responsible place to try to change, heal, and mend the lives of the people for whom you've been elected to serve. You're doing that. I called you as the VP pick, not in any recent time, but the night I heard your acceptance speech once you won the race for governor. I was listening on television, and I was like, that dude's got it. I was like, whatever it is, he's got it. Governor, I'm not going to take for granted in any way, shape, or form that there are people out here who can't see a woman, let alone a black woman, as their commander-in-chief. And I sometimes wonder how this conversation goes down amongst men when it's just men and you're trying to communicate to them in a way that is not politically correct, but is at the source of your heart and the source of what it is that you believe. And I wonder what advice might you give to this campaign, the broader campaign, and us as individuals and individual listeners around how folks might go about that conversation. How might they go about that conversation amongst other men and what that might be? And not saying all men are the same. So there's a lot of qualifiers there, but I hope you get my point.
No, I do. And I think it is really, really important that people can vouch for the vice president who have had an opportunity to work with her. People who have had the opportunity to get to know her. Certainly I'm one of those people, and there are others. When you want to talk about whatever, just the guys sitting around having the conversation, it might be hard for Kamala Harris to be part of that conversation, but if I can be there, I can tell her, hey guys, listen, she's tough as nails.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing. She is prepared to lead, and I've seen her do the job. I've seen her be tough and know what's at stake and how to make sure that she holds someone accountable or whatever the situation is. I think that those people who know her best, vouching for her in those communities, are going to be really, really important.
Well, I hope people take that as instruction, because however taboo it may seem and sound, that's a barrier we have to get over in communities all across this country, and I hope folks will take note.
And speaking of barriers, I just want to, before you answer, Governor, we've been joined by a history breaker, a history maker herself,
Big
the
time.
first black woman speaker of the Pennsylvania House, and I know an ally of Governor Shapiro, so we wanted to make sure we had a little time to overlap with you both.
Man, Speaker Joanna McClinton, if you've not heard that name before, you're going to hear it again and again and again. She is the history-making Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. For the first time, the Democrats are in the majority for about a dozen years. And look at who they picked to lead them. That is a big deal.
Amazing.
She is awesome. And as you said, a great ally of mine. And I have hers. And we're doing big things in Pennsylvania. Invest in record amounts in public education, public safety, economic opportunity, protecting our fundamental freedoms. It's big time stuff we're getting done in Pennsylvania in the only divided legislature in the whole country. And Minister McClinton on Sundays.
You were preaching
Speaker
last
McClinton
night
every
now.
day. She knows how to
do right? Lemon and ginger. What can I help you with, Governor Bishop? You were preaching out there last night.
I need whatever you drink after church on Sunday.
Oh.
Well, there's no better introduction. Madam Speaker.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us how you did it. What's been the labor to get to this point? As I've heard in the commercial, my overnight success has been years in the making.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And that's probably the story you could tell.
Absolutely. So growing up, I was not one seeing myself running anything in government. I grew up with role models like Matlock and Claire Huxtable, so I was going to law school. I was going to law school for 7. I mean, I was in the 80s. These were my role models, no lawyers in my family. And once I got all the way through school, I ended up working as a public defender for almost a decade. Doing that work in court with people who are in the worst circumstances of their lives, both struggling with poverty and also accused of serious things, about to lose liberty. It was there that I found my voice. And in finding my voice, I saw that there was a lot of injustices just in the law. Mandatory minimums. I mean, so many things that didn't make sense. And when I would ask my colleagues and our appellate lawyers down at the Philly PDs, I'm like, what's this all about? They're like, Harrisburg. I'm like, well, where is Harrisburg? I live in Philly. I'm not one to get to the state capital ever. And I left the public defenders, got a job working for my state senator, was his chief counsel for a few years. And for 9 years, just right now, I have been serving my neighbors in West and Southwest Philly and Delaware County as state rep. And for the last 4 years, I have been in leadership in Harrisburg. And it's when we flipped the House in 2022 that I went from the minority leader to the speaker.
I love that.
Andrew, can I just jump in real quick?
Please.
I want you to understand what it means to have Joanna McClinton as the leader. She mentioned that she was a public defender. Forever and a day, Pennsylvania was one of only 2 states in the whole nation that did not fund public defenders at the state level. Joanna McClinton is speaker for a hot second, and we got rid of that bad distinction.
Wow.
We now help fund our public defenders. Right? It matters who you put in positions of leadership.
Talk about it.
You know, Governor Shapiro, your speech got under Trump's skin right? Last night, he called you an overrated Jewish governor.
Yeah.
So what offended you
is that
more?
a slur?
I honestly didn't even see that. I just threw the man out.
What offended you more, him calling you overrated or the anti-Semitism?
I mean, I think my poll numbers are probably 20 points better than his. So.
Get it, Governor. Drop the mic, Governor.
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, you should have.
You should have.
Yes.
No, but listen.
That's literally the definition of say less.
Yes, say less.
Check them poll numbers, bro. Check them poll
Say
numbers.
less.
Here, I'll say a serious thing. Like, I don't get upset when he criticized me. Honestly, I don't get too high when people say nice things, too low when people say bad things. Here's what pisses me off, though. When he engages in these anti-Semitic tropes, when he pushes hatred and bigotry into our political discourse, it makes other people around here feel less safe.
It's okay. That's right.
Makes them feel like they don't belong.
That's right.
And it infects us. And listen, I got 4 kids. I try and raise them to be good people. You try and raise them to be the kind of people that you'd want in the leader of this nation. Kamala Harris is that kind of person. Right. You know, no matter what you look like, where you come from, who you love, who you pray to, you belong here. She believes that. I believe that. Donald Trump doesn't believe that.
That's right.
And that is what's upsetting to me. Right. Not that he calls me a bad name or engages in attacks on me. It's how it makes other people feel.
Right. And the license it gives to people like him to then do the same thing.
You would think he would learn his lesson because he's already created an environment of political violence that clearly hasn't been safe for him. So you would think he would learn his lesson.
Yeah. Nobody's safe.
That's a good point.
Nobody.
That's a really good point.
Okay, well, Governor.
I do have one more question for the governor.
Are we okay with the staff? We keep getting cussed out by people's staff.
I don't want to hold them.
I'm at your mercy, Charlamagne.
Oh, we are good? Okay.
What do you say to people, like I've been seeing the right say this a lot, Democrats talk like they don't have the White House now. They talk like they haven't had the White House 12 of the last 16 years. How come Democrats don't speak like they are in the driver's seat?
I'm not sure I'd look at it that way, but I think what we have now as a result of what occurred over the last 30-ish days or so, we got a change agent in Kamala Harris. We got someone who now gets to lay out a different vision, a different path forward. And so, of course, she's going to take up the mantle of change. We already know what the hell Donald Trump's going to do. He did it for 4 years. And you know what he did? More chaos, less jobs, and a whole lot less freedom when he was in charge. He wants to do the same thing. Yeah. So, like, he's not the change agent. Kamala Harris is. And so maybe that's sort of what folks are reacting to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Governor, you're being gracious with your staff.
Gracious.
I was going to say, anytime, we don't always have 6 seats, but we at least got 4. Where you want to come and join Native Land Pod, we'll welcome you on as guest host any day of the week when you're not preoccupied.
Y'all want Barack Obama on?
Oh my God.
Y'all want Barack Obama on Native Land?
I'm not sure where that came from,
but you know what? I'm going to tell you, because I don't want to talk about you behind your back.
Lifetime.
You definitely sound like him sometimes.
Do I?
Yeah.
But
I said it on the podcast.
He got his sound from some places too. So we're allowed to grow.
We'll agree with Joanna. Joanna said he was preaching. They both sound like they be preaching.
We need an organ. All we need is an organ.
So let's
start passing
and a collection
the fans
plate.
Out, but the fans have to have comments.
You know
let's ask both of y'all before y'all go. Who had the best speech of the week? Then?
I love that.
Who had the best speech of the week?
Come on. That's like asking me to choose between my kids. I think Michelle Obama.
Easily.
Come on.
No,
easily.
Madam Speaker and Governor, the debate has been, should she have been the closer?
She should have been the closer.
Should have been.
She can close every night. She can close every night.
Yeah.
She was great.
Open and close. And Governor, I have nothing in front of me, but it's just like you took my talking points. But see, they defer to the state rep. They're like, hey, state rep, we'll come back to you.
She was so
No, we want you to close. We want you to close.
I was on the floor taking selfies. Michelle was several feet away.
I love it.
Well, the message from that is become governor. You got term limits and stuff. I'm just saying.
Mark my words, Joanna McClinton will be there one day.
I believe that. I believe that.
We are so grateful for both of you all for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
It's a big night. Celebrate. It's your night. And then get out to fight tomorrow. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.
It's going to go hard.